Hey guys, so this is the day 4 video. We already talked about the fossil record and comparative anatomy and comparative molecular biology. Today we're going to be talking about comparative embryology and geographic distribution. We're going to talk about both of them in the same day basically. So you guys, here we go. All right, so the first thing you guys need to know when we're talking about comparative embryology is what is an embryo? So an embryo is basically the earliest stages of an organism's existence. So basically when you're still growing, when a baby is still growing inside of its mother's womb, it is considered an embryo. It's the pre-birth stage of an organism's development. All right? Vertebrate embryos exhibit homologous or similar structures during phases of development that become totally different structures in the adult form. Now guys, the only reason I included this is so that you can remember the difference between an invertebrate and a vertebrate, because some of you were a little bit confused during the lab. A vertebrate is any organism that has a spine. So that set of bones that goes all the way from your neck down your back, that's your vertebra, which all together make up your spinal cord. All right? So when we're looking at the embryos of vertebrates, we see that they are very, very, very similar. So if you look over here at a fish, its embryo looks extremely similar to that of a tortoise and a chicken and a rabbit and a human and all these other organisms that you can see. So at the very earliest stages of development, all of these organisms share similar characteristics. This indicates to us that there's a possibility that there was a common ancestor between these organisms which all have a spine or vertebrate, right? Since at very early ages in their development, they appear to be extremely similar. So if I want to compare all of these, I can see that every one of them has a tail, and every one of them also has a head, and these little slits right here. They're called pharyngeal slits, and in fish, these slits turn into gills, but in human beings, these slits turn into our jaw and our ear area. So even though we all look extremely similar in our embryo state, different parts of us develop in different ways, right? So this is how we can use comparative embryology to study patterns of evolution. By looking at all kinds of vertebrates have very, very, very similar structures as embryos, we can determine that there's a possibility that they shared a common ancestor which gave this to them. All right, and then we have to talk about geographic distribution. I'm sure you can all basically tell what this is going to be about. Basically means where do you belong or where do you live and who lives around you. So if I look at this organism and this one, yes, they all share very similar characteristics, but are they all closely related? The truth is, a lot of scientists believe that they're probably not very closely related. This beaver right here is probably more closely related to the rat than it is to this guy right down here, and the capybara is probably more related to him than he is up here. So when scientists look at these animals that all share very similar characteristics, they try to explain why do they all look the same even though they are so far apart that there's no way they could be closely related. So when you look at these animals, they all share similar environments and similar niches, which means that they all basically live in the same way, they have the same types of homes, they eat the same types of foods, and they share similar behaviors. Over the years of behaving or living in similar conditions, they evolved similar features but separately, right? So geographic distribution basically means that organisms that live far apart are probably not very closely related, but if they look similar, that basically means that they live in the same basic type of environment and they would have had to evolve similar features to survive in the environment that they're living in. All right? So now you guys, today there is not going to be a worksheet. There's only going to be a quiz on Google Slides, and you're going to have to participate in a discussion. All right? So good luck.